We're an industry of very talented people and very deeply feeling and passionate people that, when our talents are used to lift the voices of others and to further causes that are worth knowing about, it makes you feel a way that very little else does.
We're really excited. It's extremely challenging. I'm sure Jesse and Matt have had you know, many back and forths and many nights spent really trying to do something special because there's so much riding on it. So we feel very fortunate. We're in the middle of the challenge and it's wonderful.
Some of the most brave clients you'll meet will be in this kind of space. I think that is really inspirational for us, to feel that trust and that, we're going to hold hands and we're going to do something really brave together. I think it's hard sometimes for more traditional clients. There's just, they've got a lot of different pressures on them. And so I think as creative partners, this space has been just really, really valuable for us creatively. It really feeds our soul.
Hi, everyone, and thanks so much for joining us this afternoon for our second LinkedIn Live panel featuring our purpose-produced agency partners. We've had such a great conversation a few weeks ago, and I'm thrilled to have three more brilliant minds in the advertising industry join me today. So for those of you that may be joining us for the first time, I'm Stacy Huston. I'm the Executive Director here at SixDegrees.org. And today's conversation is really centered around this bold new initiative we put together called Purpose Produced with our partners over at Advertising Week, and what it looks like to revolutionize how companies are engaging their employees for impact. Purpose Produced is a unique collaboration we launched that pairs 6 grassroots nonprofits from across the country with 6 top-tier advertising agencies for development of a complete creative campaign. This campaign is equipping nonprofits with access to resources and expertise that is not typically available, especially when they're working with some of the world's top brands. And you're going to hear a lot about how the results are going to be pretty transformational for these organizations. So I'm super excited to be joined this afternoon by 3 of the leaders at those agencies answering the call and who are actively working on these projects right now. First, I have Jessea Hankins, the creative director at Duncan Channon. Hi, Jessea. We also have Peter
Yeah.
Bray. Oh, hi. Peter Bray, who's the executive creative director at Bray and Company.
Stacy, hi, everybody.
Good to see you. And Matt Cook, the chief creative director at The Variable. Welcome, Matt.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Now, each of you bring a really distinct and creative lens and years of experience shaping high visibility campaigns for households like Sephora, Tide, Liquid Death, which I feel like is everywhere right now. But what's even more impressive is how they're harnessing this expertise for purpose-driven work through Purpose Produce. And so this afternoon, we're going to really dive into the work of Purpose Produce, chat about what drew you guys to this campaign and what it's really meant for your teams, as well as talk about how companies in every industry can really lean into impact. So before we jump into the heart of Purpose Produce, I really want everyone to get to know the agencies that are represented on this panel. So every agency we're working with at Purpose Produce is unique, and each of your agencies have a wide range of campaigns that you've worked on over the years and kind of a distinct style and talent, and a really signature approach, which we've loved, and we've really been thoughtful about how we pair you with these organizations on the nonprofit side around that. So, Peter, if we could start with you, I'd love for you to talk a little bit about your work at Bray and Company and how you think about the creative side of everything that you do.
Sure. Thanks, Stacy. And hi again, everybody. So, Bray and Co, just quickly, we are about 6 years old. We have our main office, which we call our Inspiration Hub, our Inspo Hub in New York, and we have a wide variety of clients. Anything from where the agency of record for Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson's tequila brand Terramana, through doing telco work to tech work, et cetera, et cetera. Um, you know, our big belief as an agency is based on the fact that people do want to rise above in some kind of way. As the humans that we are, we're in perpetual struggle of sorts. but we're always looking for more and we're always looking for better. So we have this idea of rising above, whether it's for our clients rising above the category, rising above the noise, rising above expectation, rising above your competitors. This idea of rising above is really key. And so for us, we call it elevation, the elevate method. But for us, what makes us unique is that we pride ourselves on making ad campaigns that kind of don't look like ad campaigns a lot of the time. If we can create something where it's a piece of content or even a TV ad, and people go, is this an ad? Or is this a new program? Or are these people advertising to me or not? That's success for us. So whether, we've made 60-second TV ads that are just a piece of fish cooking in a fry pan with nothing else going on. We've made ads that people think are yoga lessons. There's all sorts of things we do. So we really enjoy it and we're really pleased to be involved and hopefully come up with something that maybe doesn't look like advertising.
I love that. It's like the sneaky advertising, guerrilla advertising, if you will. And I love this ethos of rising above and the challenge there. Thanks, Peter. Jessea, over to you. I'd love for you to talk a little about Duncan Channon, the work that you all do.
Sure. Thanks, Stacey. Well, Duncan Channon is an independent agency, and we have been in business for over 30 years. I know it's a long time. And we have offices in San Francisco and Los Angeles. So, over 30 years, Bray's been a lot of different kinds of work, different clients, different eras. Right now, we do a lot of fun CPG brands like Kona Brewing and Horizon Organic. We also do a lot of work with the California Department of Public Health. So we have been the agency of record for the anti-tobacco program for the past over 10 years. And we're still working with them. And so it's kind of an interesting dichotomy of the kinds of work that we do. But I think our approach to both sides of it actually is pretty similar, and we call it feeling first. And that's just based on the idea that people say they want the facts. People think that they're very rational, but they're not. And if you don't connect with people emotionally, then whatever you're trying to do isn't going to work. So when it comes to the Department of Public Health stuff, that's a lot of factual information we're trying to convey. But you have to do it in a way that is unexpected and kind of interrupts people's daily lives so that they actually listen. So that's kind of our approach that we put everywhere. I think it's a very human-centered agency, and it's a very human-centered way of approaching creative.
Thank you, Jessea. No, it's so true because often people don't know what they need. They come and they think they know exactly what they want. And there's a discovery process, and there's also the consumer behavior and how you have to reach people. So, it's a thoughtful way to think about it. Matt, I'd love for you to share, what's the common thread at Variable? How do you approach your work there?
Yeah, I think the Variable, we're located in North Carolina. I feel like size-wise, we're in the Goldilocks zone between both Peter and Jesse's agencies. And our sort of philosophy, it's literally written on our walls, is give a shit. So direct to the point, very blunt. But that's how we operate day in, day out. Whenever we're working with clients, whether it be a Liquid Death, a Napa Auto Parts, Frigidaire, Electrolux, ultimately that's where we start with everything. What's going to make people care about this? What's going to make people stop for a second? We're all very aware of how we as human beings interact with the world. And in a lot of instances, you're only getting a fraction of a second to try to convince somebody that what they're seeing is worth hanging around for. And so that's how we operate. It's made, this project a very natural fit. We also have a lot of experience in the nonprofit space that we put a lot of heart and effort into over the years. And so for us, that's sort of our edict. That's how we approach every day. And that's what gets us, I think, as a collective out of bed in the morning.
Also can relate to this. I think in the nonprofit space, that's what we are constantly asking the question, like, you care about the work that you do so closely, and you're just like, why doesn't anyone else give a shit about this? So we need to kind of move the needle on this. So that's really exciting, and why you're a perfect partner for this sort of campaign. Um, It's been such a pleasure to see how all of your agencies have really approached Purpose Produce and each of your individual campaigns, all very distinct and different, and really seeing those missions shine through. But I want to zoom in a little bit closer, um, starting with kind of the big picture. Jessea, Duncan Channon is working with Be a Shiro Foundation, which is a Vegas-based nonprofit that supports girls under 25 who have been trafficked and exploited. So it's a pretty heavy topic, of course. Yet Duncan Channon has had a lot of strategic and creative expertise in tackling sensitive issues with authenticity, which is why we paired you with Be a Shiro. Um, but you didn't know which prophet that you were going to be working with when you came on board. You just kind of said yes. So I'd love to talk about what made your team say yes.
As people in this industry, I think we, know that we can use our powers for more than just, selling things. And I think that it's not only something that we feel like we can help these organizations do, but I think it's something that kind of feeds us too. Like our creative souls, I think, are better for it to sort of have a moment to step outside and do work that feels really, really important. The Shiro Foundation, yeah, we did not know we would be working with them, but when we found out about their mission, we actually all had to do a bit of education at first because honestly, this issue is part of the reason they need to do a campaign is there's a lot of misconceptions around the issue. And just as we learned about it, you're right, it was a very heavy topic, but I think we all just felt really determined and really just wanted to stand with those survivors and empower them, So it really, I think we really wanted to take an approach that felt very empowering and powerful, and not not about sort of the tragedy of it. I think that's a similar approach that we took for our campaign that we did with the California Department of Health about fentanyl awareness. So that launched last year. And similarly, that's a very tragic subject. And we want to educate people. We don't want to make light of anything, but we also know that sometimes you have to kind of go at it sideways so that people don't just immediately feel overwhelmed with the heaviness of the issue and tune out.
Yeah. No, it's an incredible point. It's one of the reasons why we paired you is what you did with the fentanyl campaign and with a similar, uh, you know, hero story where you have to take a subject of a person that people can place a lot of judgment on, without peeling back the layers and really understanding that this could happen to anyone's friend, spouse, child. So yeah, we're really, really excited for them, especially because although they're local in Vegas, this is a campaign that's going to be affecting people nationally, if not globally. So it really will um, resonate across different regions. Peter, I'd love to talk a little bit about what your team is creating for Dark Sky International, which is an organization that I personally find super fascinating. Their work is all in restoring the nighttime environment and protecting communities from the harmful effects of light pollution, which is something that even in having a pillar around sustainable development and living environments, I didn't truly understand the impacts of light pollution. I know that in our earlier conversations, you had kind of a direct connection to that as well and had been exposed to a dark sky protected area. But Bray and Company has this really unique ability to recontextualize sometimes
Yeah,
complicated subjects that our audiences haven't really understood the full concept around, which made you a great fit for Dark Sky for that very reason. And as a leading creative, I'd love for you to talk a little bit about why you guys jumped into
sure.
this campaign.
Yeah, sure. So for us, going back to this idea of rising above and this fundamental belief that we all strive for it, the incredible thing about not-for-profits is that they exist for a very clear reason, right? Which is at the end of the day to make society, all of us, better in some way. Um, and so, I'd rather call not-for-profits not for loss, and I think we actually underrate the value that not-for-profits bring to the world. Imagine if we didn't have not-for-profits, what a different world would be in. So for us saying yes, uh, we almost had to say yes because it's so intertwined into our mission of rising above in general. And if we didn't say yes, we're not being true to ourselves. So, like Jesse and Matt, we didn't know who we were going to be paired with, and it was a wonderful surprise to be paired with Dark Sky. They are an incredible organization, talking about something that most of us don't really think about much. And all of us in advertising, our job is to get people just noticing. If we can get you to notice, then we can have a conversation. But to Matt's point before about all the noise, getting noticed is really difficult. There's a reason that so many people say, well, I haven't really got an idea all the time. Sometimes they'll use a celebrity. That'll get me noticed straight away because there's an equity. So, Dark Sky are about really better lighting. At the end of the day, light pollution is a big issue, but they're not trying to say, hey, everybody, turn off your lights. No one wants to be told they have to get rid of something or lose something. So, how do we get people to think about light in a different way and understand what they're missing out on by having too much light? So, we're really excited. It's extremely challenging. I'm sure Jesse and Matt have had the many back and forths and many nights spent really trying to do something special because there's so much riding on it. So we feel very fortunate, and we I wouldn't say we're looking forward to the challenge. We're in the middle of the challenge, and it's wonderful.
We can't wait to keep seeing what comes out of this. It's gonna be fantastic. And Matt, for the variable, you're working with trauma intervention programs, who was our People's Choice selection, which was fantastic. And I keep on saying to people that trauma interventions program, also known as TIP, is like the largest nonprofit that no one has ever heard of because they were basically ran as a network of volunteers. And they really provide emotional first aid to survivors of extreme tragedy and loss. And they had such powerful stories. And I thought that this was a really great pairing with you all because you'll be able to help people understand their voice and what makes them really unique. And I know that they have, teams all over the country, and they're really focused on this kind of second responder approach. So I would love for you to share a little bit about what drew your team to Purpose Produce and kind of just reflect on the pairing itself.
Yeah, in terms of, what drew our team to Purpose Produced, again, it's in our DNA. It's something that the agency, through its entire 13 years of existence, has put a really large emphasis behind. I mean, we fundamentally believe, like Jesse spoke about, that we're an industry of very talented people and very deeply feeling and passionate people that, when our talents are used to lift the voices of others and to further causes that are worth knowing about. It makes you feel a way that very little else does. And so when we learned about Tip and all the amazing things that they do, it was truly, to echo the sentiment of Peter, like one of those things that you're like, why isn't this a household name? Why isn't this, we talk about first responders constantly, and that's such a notion and the idea of people. We celebrate those people on an incredible level. But when you really learn about, the people that come into these situations, a lot of times it's the worst day in someone's life. Who stays with them, who comforts them, who helps them navigate what's next. When your mind is scattered and a lot of times your life has changed forever. When you learn of a program like this, it's really kind of incredible that it isn't more well known. And so for us, that was where the excitement came from, as it always does. It's always incredible, incredible causes, incredible missions. Led by people who have devoted their lives to making things happen with resources far under what they often need to make them household names. And so for us, it's easy to get excited about things like that because it's easy to believe in, and it's things that deserve more widespread notoriety.
And you and your team are going to help them get that. And we're so appreciative and grateful for really all of your teams and how each of you have wholeheartedly jumped into Purpose Produced. I know it's been an incredible experience so far for your teams and especially our nonprofit partners, all the feedback, they're just so excited. And every time they have a creative call with you all, they send notes and they're just like buzzing with the type of strategy and support that they're getting. I'd love to hear what the experience has been like for your teams overall, maybe some of the most rewarding parts and what they've been. And Matt, just since you ended, let's start with you this time. Uh, Tip has shared that your team is really pushing them out of their comfort zones in the best ways possible. What has that been like for you?
Yeah, it's been great. I think, in this industry, we all have great meetings all the time, and everybody loves everything we do. I say that tongue in cheek, obviously. But working with Mandy and Ann at Tip, just the amount of gratitude that they have and in the spirit of collaboration and the excitement they bring to the table, I think is infectious. I mean, our team's already excited to be working on it, but when you're working with people and you can see tangibly the effects that it's having or can have on their business, it's always really fulfilling. And I think the other thing as well is, at the variable in this place we occupy, we call on, frequent collaborators within our community. And it's been awesome as we dedicate our resources to this, calling on them as well and saying, hey, are you guys up for this? Is this something, you'd like to be a part of? And without hesitation, them saying yes and opting in. And it just underscores what you already know about them. That you've developed and cultivated an amazing tapestry of talented people that are also great people at their core. And so it's an easy thing to get excited about. And in terms of pushing them, like again, when people are excited and you can tell they're open to challenging ideas, I think that becomes easier for us. Again, it goes back to really understanding the need, like what do we need to convey to people? And you can't ever ask anybody to do something new and challenging founded on nothing or based in no rationale, right? So it really starts with an implicit understanding of what problem needs to be solved. And then when you can come from a place of understanding and speak the language natively, it's really easy to get people excited about ideas that are really great and challenging. And I think they can see that people will stop and respond and take that second to make an impact, take that second to spend a little bit more time with it, and hopefully pass the highest bar of all, which is something you'd send to a friend. And as we all know, as human beings and not advertisers, that's a very high bar. It's got to be very good and something that you genuinely resonate with, not just ad resonate with. So that's always our goal in everything we do.
Unless you're me and my sister and you could just see the thread of Instagram notes back and
That's
forth, and
right.
I'm like, what are we doing all day? We just talk to each other in memes, in short form content. But no, you're absolutely right. It is a high bar to say, hey, this is so funny or so moving or so powerful, or the thing of being wanting to teach someone something and you've learned something and now you want to share that forward. So no, that's fantastic thoughts. And Jesse, we've heard some really powerful stories of impact from Shiro and their team, as you've already stated, is so full of passion. They really are deeply connected to this work that they do. What's been the most impactful thing for you and your team on working on their campaign?
Learning about the issue, at such a crazy time where sex trafficking is all over the news, so we're sort of seeing these stories play out in media, and then learning sort of, some of the about some of the misconceptions, like girls are way more likely to be groomed on, gaming websites or social media sites, like, rather than out in the real world, and I think just learning about some of that stuff for me and for my creative partner and for all the other people on the team, I think it just has us kind of thinking about those young people in our own lives. I'm a parent, like whether you're a parent or you just have, other teenagers in your life and you kind of look at them and it's such a powerful instinct to want to protect them that I think is going into the work itself. I think similarly, I know you guys we're probably all in the similar how are we gonna produce this, situation right now? But similarly, as we've reached out to, other production partners, we've had such an amazing response. Everyone wants to also donate their time and want to be part of this. So that's been really, really motivating too. I think having a topic that is so sensitive, but feeling like we're gonna do this in a way that thread that needle and do right by these survivors, seeing the response from some of those production partners and from the clients at Shiro has been really validating. I think we've got the right approach. So yeah,
Yeah.
we're just really proud to be working on it.
Jesse, it's rings true because we always say we don't, have to do this work. We get to do this work. And so often I think nonprofits are almost positioning themselves like, can you please come and help us? And I'm like, this is a really strategic opportunity, right? Because you get to invite other creatives in collectively. We all know collective impact is stronger and greater. You get to grow and learn together and really pour purpose and mission into your work, and that is something that I think resonates with people and really fires up teams and workforces. That yes, you get to do purpose driven work in other ways, absolutely, but something like this where you know that it is making an impact that may not have happened otherwise is just really, really special. So we love to hear that other people are saying yes so easily to working on this project as well. And Peter, I mean, the content we've seen from Dark Sky is breathtaking. Like when they sent their images over as we were kind of building our own announcements around them, it was like every photo was just like another beautiful galaxy, tapestry. So I'm sure working on their campaign has really left its mark on your team if you want to talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, absolutely. It's really interesting. Again, we've had this idea of where we're trying to get attention, we're trying to disrupt narratives, right? We're trying to flip some things on their head. And what you come to realize is when you're trying to disrupt other people's thinking, what happens? You're disrupting yourself. You're the one who ends up having to challenge yourself and your own way of thinking. And that is really, really challenging for all of us. And for us also, talking about uh, light pollution again, uh, for a lot of people, they may not find that extremely interesting. And beautiful photos of the desert sky, where I spend a lot of time, which is why it was fortuitous, they're really captivating. But how do you deal with urban environments when people are never seeing the sky, when there's high light, but not taking something away from them? So for our team, it's been really challenging from in terms of managing how they themselves have thought about light. And we're seeing light in a whole new way. We truly are. And we're also seeing the absence of light as what so many of us are missing out on. Why is it that we have been all brought up to be afraid of the dark? Why? We're all trained to be afraid of the dark. But maybe that is one of the most amazing, beautiful opportunities we have in our lives, but we're told to avoid it. So for us, it's really reframing so many thoughts we've had. And, and the client, Ruskin and his team at Dark Sky, they've been buying into this journey 100%. This very human issue we've got, they're supporting to the point. A little anecdote quickly. Last week we had a conversation with Ruskin and his team, and we started talking about, look, we've got this AI panel that so many agencies have now. Let's test these things with the AI panel. And Dark Sky were like, no, we've chosen you because you guys are so human. We want you. We don't want some AI panel. And that was actually really rare for us as well. So it's been a wonderful experience and a growing experience for us as an agency and also Dark Sky as well, because they're also thinking, wow, we can now create this campaign idea that is something more than just our messaging and something more than just our purpose. And that's been a wonderful experience for everybody.
That's a really powerful example of what like true collaboration looks like when you've built a trusted environment where, yeah, you're challenging them and they're challenging you back and able to say, no, but this is why, and this is what makes sense, and that your team says, okay, like we're gonna pivot and think about that in a different way. So thank you so much for sharing. Um, I have a quick little side story. I have a friend who's a chief hiking officer. And similarly to this, why have we been taught to be afraid of the dark? Her whole thing is, why are we afraid to go in the woods? All these stories are about don't go into the woods. And it's really kept a lot of people from this natural thing of just experiencing the environment and going out on hikes by themselves, which is just reminded me of that. But I think that's a really powerful way to flip something on its head. Super excited for that campaign. So it's great to hear how each of your teams are enjoying this process and making this really unique and also engaging your employees in this impactful work. And I think that when we harness the charitability, that our passions and our skill sets just get enhanced, right? They really just um, can be pushed and stretched in really beautiful ways. Um, I'd love to think about how your teams are continuing to kind of give back on a daily basis. And before we close, I'd love to leave folks with some of our thoughts around that because we don't want purpose produced to end here in this way. This is an example of a fantastic advertising play and a creative campaign, but we really believe that there are organizations, especially in creative spaces, but in a lot of different types of sectors that have incredibly talented teams that have a specific skill set that can lean in and give of their time and expertise in doses and really make such an impact, especially at a time when nonprofits are really struggling, right? There's been such a rollback in funding and from the corporate space and from governmental grants and so on and so forth. And so, Peter, I'd love to start with you. As a founder, how would you emphasize the importance of companies taking that leap to leverage their workforce for good?
I think apart from the social obligation that many of us feel and it being the right thing to do, um, there are some real commercial benefits as well, honestly. So for us, it's an opportunity to bring our team together, and we're all in this crazy disconnected world, whether it's the variable or Duncan, Channon or Bray and Co. We're all looking for every opportunity to bring our teams together. And how do we do more of that? And there's nothing like a clear purpose to unite teams. And so, from a morale point of view alone, and then you have training on top of that, it's brilliant. And also, though, for us, um, it needs to be outcome based. So, what is the outcome of all this? There are enough people who are wearing a badge or raising their hands saying they support something. But what is the hard, measurable outcome? And so, when you put it that way, when it's outcome based, it becomes a challenge for the whole team, right? And they want to test themselves. They want to have the best possible creative, the best, most memorable campaigns possible. And so I think we're all elevating because of this. I really do. And sometimes when it's purpose driven and it's not about dollars, pretty special things happen. And so that intangible magic, this incredible synthesis that happens when you're doing creative that nothing else can replace, that is of such immense value that it's magical, and the value is unmeasurable at the end of the day for our agency.
Beautifully stated. Appreciate that, Peter. Matt, a lot of organizations may see the value in initiatives like this and want to make an impact, but they struggle with where to start. So, what's one kind of first step that you might recommend someone takes?
Yeah, I think whenever you decide to sort of take on something like this, really you're best served starting by talking to your team. To Peter's point, I think so much of what makes this work good and worth doing is when it comes from a place of real passion. And I think not just in advertising, but in the world as a whole, like people want to feel like they're using their talents to make real intangible impact. And so for us, we always start by asking our team, how do you feel about it? Um, is this something that you want to be doing? It's our intent every time we take on something like this, it gets the same time, attention, and rigor as every other thing we do. So Peter's point about measurables, it needs to make a real impact and be worth it for the partner that we're working with. We want to deliver for them, and so it takes a real commitment. And I think once you've made room for that, once you've made time for that commitment, it's really a rising tide that raises all ships. Not intentionally, some of our work that we've done in the non-for-profit space has been some of our most recognized. It's opened doors in places and new business opportunities in ways that you wouldn't ever have imagined it would when you did it. It's not why you did it, but it's definitely a benefit of doing it. And I think it's just that energy you can feel when people feel passionate about something and they feel like they have willing collaborators on the other side of the conversation. Really great creative things, really effective things come of it. And it's something that you can't replicate and you can't fake. And so I think having a real understanding of what your team is passionate about, what they care about in the world, the types of things that they want people to know more about is really key in sort of making sure that when you're undertaking something like this, that it feels authentic and people are actually bought in and it's not just another thing that they have to do in their already busy lives. I think feeling that real and genuine connection is core to arriving in a really great creative place on the other side.
There's just so many good things that you've said there. One, I think that a lot of companies might say like, "Hey, this is important to us, so it has to be important to everybody else." So that dialogue and kind of finding out what is your employees are really passionate about, I think is true. Whereas doesn't mean that you do 10 or 15 different things, but you'll start seeing core themes from the culture that you shaped at the organization that you're at, and where you can really be meaningful about the projects that you take on. I think that's so well said. I appreciate it. And 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 the other piece I do want to point out before we close with Jesse is a lot of times in the nonprofit space, you get what you pay for. And with pro bono in kind projects, they can feel very pro bono and in kind. I mean, non-responsive, no one's on video on a conversation. Deadlines aren't really being communicated. And this is just not that.
Mm.
Each one of your teams knew what we were asking of you, which was a lot. But you did it and you have treated everyone like a client that is paying what any of your other clients will pay. And that is very noticeable from start to finish. And it is so deeply appreciated because for people to feel very truly seen and heard and listened to is really important in a process like this. And so each of your agencies have just done a great job. So I just want to put a little bow on that note. And Jesse, as a passionate creative, I'd love for you to talk about one practical way you might advise other creatives to start infusing some of their purpose into projects that they're working on.
I think it can that idea of your purpose can go into all of your work, really. It doesn't only have to be the nonprofits or the pro bono projects that you're working on. I think, we all see how much advertising shapes culture, and so much of what we're putting out there, can be just taking a step back and looking at that work with that lens of, is this ultimately going to put some more good out into the world? The smallest thing can make that change. I also think we can start small in terms of doesn't even have to be through your agency. I think, one of our ACDs has founded a program that called Yeah Art that works with kids in Oakland, gives them arts education. So she started that and, has done that as her passion project. I think all of us, have that thing that we care about, and there's different ways to use our strengths, whether that is, organizational or whether that is something creative, something to put out there. Yeah, one other thing I just wanted to comment on the clients. I think Some of the most brave clients you'll meet will be in this kind of space. I think that is really inspirational for us, to feel that trust and that, we're going to hold hands and we're going to do something really brave together. I think it's hard sometimes for more traditional clients. There's just that they've got a lot of different pressures on them. And so I think as creative partners, this space has been just really, really valuable for us creatively. It really feeds our soul.
Well said. We always say it goes both ways, right? So often you're the giver, but you're receiving as well. So thank you for that. Jessea Hankins from Duncan, Channon, Peter Bray of Bray and Company, and Matt Cook with The Variable. Thank you all so, so much, not only for spending time with us this afternoon, but for the incredible, generous work that your teams are doing for Purpose Produced. You're really creating transformational impact. We're so grateful for these partnerships as all of our network partners. And to everyone who's tuned in today to this conversation, thank you for being here. Your interest and support of this work is really meaningful, and we are so glad that we get to do this alongside you all. Make sure you're following SixDegrees.org as we continue to share behind the scenes looks at Purpose Produce, and stay tuned for these amazing campaigns that these creatives are working on. Have a good one.
Thanks, Stacy.
Thank
Thanks
you.
for having us.